Good morning, everyone. Boosting your immunity has become so important, especially during COVID times. How can all of us boost our immunity while we are staying home and maintaining social distance? I am Amita from Nourish Talk, a global platform for natural and holistic therapies. Presenting this topic, we have Dr. Maryam Mahanian. She has 18 years of experience as doctor of Chinese medicine. Dr. Maryam is a licensed acupuncturist joining us live from Vancouver, Canada. Her focus is on women's health, pregnancy, chronic pain, cosmetic acupuncture, and skin health. Welcome, Dr. Maryam.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great. Let's get started. All right, this is just a disclaimer that this information is only for educational purpose, so please don't take it as any diagnosis or cure. So let's start with what exactly is traditional Chinese medicine?
So Chinese medicine has been used for thousands of years. It's actually the most experienced form of medicine in the world, and it continues to be widely used and it's highly respected. Today, it's actually used by 2/3 of the world's population. It's very safe and effective because the treatments are always customized to the individual. And many people may think that it consists of just acupuncture when they think of traditional Chinese medicine, but it actually consists of much more than that. It's acupressure, it's moxibustion, which I'll actually be getting into later in the slides. Consists of Chinese herbs, cupping, and Chinese food cures and nutrition. So Chinese medicine views the body as a garden. So what we do with our garden is we tend to nurture it, we water it, we pull out the weeds, we get rid of any pests, we have to look at our garden every day to notice any subtle changes, just to make sure our garden flourishes. Whereas in Western medicine, we see the body more like a machine that is consisting of different parts. And these parts are separate from one another. We typically wait till something breaks down and then we go and we fix it. But in the Chinese medicine model, we're actually learning to take care of ourselves before any sickness develops. So it's more about prevention. And we take care of ourselves on every level, mentally, emotionally, and physically.
That's great. Actually, it's the root cause, right? That's what it is.
Exactly. And one of the fundamental views of Chinese medicine is called the Doctrine of the Mean, or you can say moderation. Not too much, not too little. So this goes for eating, for exercise, sleep, and rest. And the whole premise is that anything in excess can cause imbalance, and it's imbalance that leads to sickness. So we're always striving for moderation and balance, and that's the key to good health. And Chinese medicine treats the whole body in order to allow the immune system to function properly. So it's about really making a shift in your whole health and your lifestyle.
So let's talk about qi, which all of us have heard so much.
Yes, and yet there are people that may not have ever heard of qi. So qi is loosely translated as energy or our life force. Qi is essentially what gives us life. It moves through our bodies, throughout specific channels or vessels. And in Chinese medicine, we call this the meridian system. And the aim of Chinese medicine is to free the flow of qi in our meridian systems. And these meridians connect with internal organs. So the qi moves through the meridian system in order to nourish the organs with proper flow of qi, with proper flow of blood, and supplies the organs with enough nutrients. And when it comes to illness, this is essentially due to a blockage in that proper flow of qi. So it's not only important to keep the qi flowing, but also to have an adequate amount of qi in order to be able to flow. And this picture it sort of strikes me as somebody that has good qi. And so in Chinese medicine, when we say that somebody has a good, healthy immune system, we say, oh, they have good qi. And this not only means a good amount of qi, but a good flow of qi. And there's a few different kinds of qi, but when it comes to the immune system, we're more concerned about what we call the wei qi. And this can also be called the protective qi or the defensive qi. And it's like having a protective blanket that keeps out the pathogens, like viruses and bacteria. And this wei qi is what protects us against the foreign pathogens. And the lung system controls the wei qi movement. And the digestion can actually produce more wei qi. So what you'll notice in this presentation is that I'm really focused on diet and proper digestion because we want to have enough wei qi in order to allow the immune system to function properly. And there's an analogy of the immune system using the house. So imagine that your body is the house and external pathogens like viruses or bacteria are the thief. You want to do everything you can to prevent the thief from entering your house. So you'll need to lock your doors, close your windows, maybe have a locked gate or even an alarm system. And so having these security measures, it's like strengthening the wei qi in your body. Let's say you're not sleeping well, or you're not eating the right foods, or managing your stress, or all the things that we'll be talking about today. It's like you're leaving your door wide open for the thief to get in. And in the case of our bodies, we're increasing the likelihood of allowing these external pathogens to enter. And so right now with the pandemic, we can think of this thief as being sort of extra clever and even maybe having special tools or gadgets to get into the house quickly. So right now is even more of a very crucial time to be strengthening our wei qi and forming good, healthy habits.
Okay.
And we need to always protect ourselves from the wind and the cold. And a lot of people may think of this as sort of just an old wives' tale. But in Chinese medicine, we actually do agree that if you get cold, you can catch a cold. And what happens is that the wind and the cold penetrates the skin and it actually disrupts the circulation of this wei qi. So we agree that we always have to sort of protect our bodies and cover up in windy and damp and cold environments. And typically this wind and cold will enter through the upper back, the neck, sort of the base of the head. And that's why when we start to feel sick, we can often feel this soreness and tension and uncomfortable feeling in the upper back.
So we'll have to be more careful, especially during pandemic. Now the fall is coming up, to protect ourselves more than earlier, because this has been the summertime for the last few months.
Yes, exactly. So we are approaching fall, and there's going to be a real shift in the season. So it's a very important time to really, wear scarves and wear a lot of layers. So in Chinese medicine, there are 4 basic things that contribute to good health. So one is diet and nutrition, exercise, adequate rest and relaxation, and just having a good mental attitude and doing good work in the world. And this is a sort of typical presentation of a person that I see with a weak immune system. So they do tend to run a bit cold with cold hands and feet. They tend to have low energy, a weak digestion, so not having a very strong appetite, getting bloated after meals, or fatigued after meals, or even having a tendency to loose bowel movements or diarrhea. And they also can have difficulty focusing and concentrating. So if you relate to any of these symptoms, you're probably somebody that needs to start strengthening their qi. And so now we've sort of gone over the basics of Chinese medicine as a whole, and now we can talk about what to do to benefit our immune system. And I know that we've been talking about this endlessly during the pandemic, but of course the number one thing is you want to wash your hands. Super easy to do, so why not do it? The CDC reports that hand washing alone can reduce the rates of the common cold by up to 21%. This is a picture that I shared it on Instagram. The areas that you want to focus on with hand washing that are often missed would be, sort of up into the wrists, the tips of the fingers, the thumb especially. So to just really spend that time washing our hands properly, and it'll become a habit. And diet is actually one of my favorite topics. And it is open to a lot of differences in opinion and debate. These days, you sort of don't know what diets are healthy, what aren't. There's a lot of fads out there. It can be very confusing. But in Chinese medicine,
Hello, Dr. Maryam.
yes?
Hello? Yes,
Yeah.
we lost you for a moment.
Oh, okay.
That's okay.
Yes.
Let's continue with the Chinese medicine diet.
Okay, I'll just start from the beginning of the slide.
Sure.
Yes, it did say my internet is a little unstable. Sorry about that.
No.
So with diet, there are a lot of differences in opinion right now with what the best diet is, and this can be confusing. But in Chinese medicine, it's been written about simply and clearly for centuries, and it's not a passing fad. So it's very common sense guidelines to healthy, balanced eating. What I love about it is that it's not difficult. It's not very strict about avoiding specific foods. So it's quite easy to implement and to maintain as well. And it really just focuses on having easy to digest foods. And in Chinese medicine, digestion is warm transformation, meaning that it requires warm energy. In Chinese medicine, the stomach is referred to as the cooking pot. So it takes the food and liquids and mushes it up into a 100-degree soup. And in order to digest our foods, there has to be enough heat and fire under this cooking pot. After the foods are broken down in the stomach, it's the spleen system's job to transform these nutrients in order to produce qi and blood. So the more qi and blood we have, the stronger our immune system is going to be. I always advise my patients to have more warm cooked foods instead of cold raw foods. And a general rule of thumb is to look at your diet and have about 80% of your diet as cooked foods versus just 20% of your diet raw cold foods.
So the salads that all of us, a lot of people go on a salad diet to lose weight and all kind of things, right? And smoothies is a huge popular
I know,
right
and
now.
yeah, it's so confusing because we think we're being so healthy by having our smoothie in the morning and then having our big salad at lunch and maybe another big salad at dinner, or but Chinese medicine, it really it does have a different opinion, but there are ways around this. You can still have your salads, you can have your smoothies, which I'll be getting into, I think, in the next slide. There are ways to balance that cold energy. So some examples of the cold and raw foods that we're talking about, again, are smoothies, frozen fruits in your smoothies, salads. It goes without saying, ice cream, popsicles, even sushi, iced beverages. If you talk to any Chinese medicine doctor, they're very much against putting ice in your drinks. Yogurt for breakfast, that is actually a big no-no because we always recommend a warm breakfast. So having yogurt for breakfast is so typical, but not advised. And having fruit straight from the fridge. I always tell people to try to have your fruit out on your kitchen counter for at least a few hours before you consume your fruit. So again, there are ways to balance the cold foods with warmth. So for example, if you have a salad, you can follow your salad with a warm cup of tea, or you can add cooked foods to your salads, like a piece of chicken breast or salmon or a boiled egg. And for your smoothies in the mornings, maybe leave your frozen berries out overnight before you use them the next day.
Okay.
And proper hydration is also very important to your digestion and your immunity. So always drinking warm or hot water, again, instead of cold water. And you want to sort of sip on hot water throughout the entire day. So have a thermos with you. Not only is it water that you want to drink more, but you want to also have foods that have more water content. So things like soups and stews. Congee is great, which is a sort of soupy rice, very often used in Asia. Bone broth is one of my favorites, very, very nutritious. Porridge, steamed rice, steamed grains, steamed veggies, cooked fruits. I also recommend to not use too many spices in foods because spices can deplete the fluids and possibly dehydrate you.
Okay.
And another thing that we talk about very often in Chinese medicine are these damp, sticky foods. And basically these damp, sticky foods are difficult to digest, and they also will congest the lungs. So we don't want to do that because the lungs, again, going back to the Wei Qi, the lungs distribute and control the circulation of Wei Qi. So some examples of damp, sticky foods would be dairy products, especially cheese, because cheese is quite condensed. Any refined sugars like cakes, pies, pastries. Gluten is very sticky. Alcohol, especially beer, is very damp. Pizza, of course, burgers, French fries, anything that's deep fried. Bananas are actually quite damp. And I'll talk to people that, you know, they'll have 1 or 2 bananas every single day, and that's just too much. So again, it's about moderation. You can have your bananas, but maybe have 2 or 3 bananas a week instead. Processed foods, margarine, trans fats, rancid oils, those are all damp, sticky foods. And if you look at your tongue after having some damp, sticky foods, you may notice that your tongue coating can get quite thick. And it could be either like a white coating or yellow. And then you can also maybe notice some mucus lines on your tongue. And that will tell you that your digestion has been affected by these damp, sticky foods. Also, I should say that you shouldn't ever feel overly full after a meal. So let's say in the mornings, if you feel bloated or overly full from the previous night's dinner, you probably ate the wrong food and possibly you ate something that was damp or sticky.
No wonder when you have pizza, and I mean, next day, most of us, we love pizza, but
I know, it's so good. It's so good, but in Chinese medicine, it's so bad. So Chinese medicine doesn't only talk about what to eat, but also how to eat. So you want to eat at regular times every day. You don't want to skip meals, but you want to also give your digestion a little break between meals. I don't often recommend intermittent fasting, especially at this time dealing with the pandemic, is not the best time to start experimenting with intermittent fasting. You don't want to overeat. You also don't want to undereat. Try not to eat late at night because our digestion is not working well in the evenings. You want to stop eating about 8 o'clock at night, and avoid drinking cold beverages with your meals. Also, this is an interesting one. You don't want to have a lot of mental or emotional stress or stimulation while you're eating. So for example, you don't want to have those difficult, stressful conversations during a meal. You don't want to watch the news or even reading a book or studying while eating, because that can interfere with our digestion. And we also don't want to eat on the go. You instead sitting, enjoying your food, and chewing your food thoroughly is very helpful to a proper digestion. And going back to why digestion is important, because a healthy digestion is actually very key to a healthy immune system. And eating according to the seasons is something that maybe people have heard about when it comes to Chinese medicine. And the philosophy is that our bodies are in tune with nature. So for example, in spring, it's a time of renewal and movement after being a little bit more sedentary in the winter. So it's a time when you can incorporate fresh greens, green onions, cilantro, parsley, and other veggies and fruits while still eating the majority of your food cooked or at least lightly cooked. And then in summertime, it's a time that you can take advantage of a little bit more of those fresh fruits and veggies and having them raw, because your body is better equipped in the summer to digest these cold foods. And some examples would be fresh greens, watermelon. But I should say that if you do suffer from a lot of bloating or loose bowel movements, you still want to stick to a mainly cooked diet, even in the summer. And then in autumn, we're starting to transition to cooler weather and shorter days. So you can start to have more soups and stews and roasted root veggies like carrots or sweet potatoes or squash. And you want to also drink more tea with ginger, because ginger is quite warming. And then lastly, in winter, it's a time of restoration and reflection. And we can cook our food slower in order to add more heat. We can add more warming spices like cinnamon or dried ginger or cloves or cumin. And winter is especially a time that I would say to avoid those frozen and cold raw foods.
Okay. It's very similar to some of the other, like Ayurveda also says the similar concept of eating according to the seasons.
Yeah,
that's
definitely. There's so much wisdom in that. And in Chinese medicine, we have an organ system clock. So the 24 hours in a day are broken up into 12 2-hour intervals. And each 2-hour interval corresponds to a particular organ system. And that means that at that 2-hour interval, that organ system is functioning at its best. So if you look at this clock, you'll see that between 7 to 9 a.m. is the stomach time. And that's when the stomach is working at its strongest. So that's when you want to have a nutritious breakfast. And then from 9 to 11 a.m., it's an important time for the spleen. And that's when the spleen is going to be working to digest and transform your nutrients into qi. Now, if you look at sort of 12 hours later, between 7 to 11 p.m., that's actually when the stomach and spleen are going to be at their weakest functioning. And so you don't want to eat during those times because your digestion won't be working as well during those times. Also, between 5 to 7 a.m. is the large intestine time. And that's a good time for you to have your daily bowel movement. So I recommend to people to, as soon as they wake up, to have 1 or 2 cups of warm water to just help to flush out the large intestine. And another, just to go over a few other foods that are best for immunity are soups, so chicken or vegetable soup, ideally not cream-based, because again, cream is going to be too damp, too sticky. Pho is really excellent. Bone broth is excellent. Having ginger, lemon and honey tea. Goji berries are great in hot water, drank as a tea. And dry tangerine peels. So if you just peel a tangerine and put the peels out in the sun to dry, and then have this in hot water, that's great for drying the dampness and congestion, particularly in our lungs and in our digestion. And you want to have lightly cooked dark green veggies like kale, broccoli, spinach, cabbage, zucchini, string beans, bok choy. Lemon and other citrus are highly recommended. Fermented foods are great for the gut. Turmeric, sweet potatoes, yams, cooked carrots, mushrooms, garlic, all of these things are great for immune system. And you want to have plenty of protein every day. So eggs or lean meats, fish, beans as well.
The dried tangerine is a great idea. Never.
Yeah.
We
and
always throw it out.
Very easy to do.
Yes.
So that's that for diet. And now just talking about balancing rest and exercise. So going back to this doctrine of the mean or moderation. So you want to move your body every day, because if you don't, then your body will have more congestion and more dampness and phlegm and stagnant qi and blood. You also don't want to over-exercise because that can deplete and consume your qi. So exercise, as a general rule of thumb, it should make you feel energized and not overly tired or injured or unwell. And some of the types of exercise I like are just walking. So even if you can walk 20 minutes a day, that's excellent. Hiking is great, so you're out in nature getting that fresh air. Biking, yoga, qigong, tai chi, dancing, anything body moving. And so I just always tell people, try to make it fun so that you look forward to doing it. And of course, sleep.
We love to sleep.
Yeah, I heard once from somebody, sleep like it's your job right now during the pandemic. And I really agree with that. Nobody should feel guilty for sleeping too much. And I do advise to try to go to bed around 10:30, because the sleep that you get before midnight is very good quality sleep. Because of more stress and anxiety during this time, I recommend maybe doing like a writing exercise before you go to bed. So writing down everything that's on your mind in order to release it. Reading before bed is highly recommended to just help put you in a nice sleep and to not read on a screen. No caffeine after 2 would be a great idea, and to just have a healthy sleep routine. And they say sleep deprivation of less than 7 hours a night has been shown to triple your chances of getting sick. So sleep is very important for the immune system. And just going back to the organ system clock. So, and this is a question I get so often in my clinic from patients. They say, well, why do I wake up at this certain time every single night and I don't have a good quality sleep? There could often be underlying physical and emotional meanings involved if you go back to this clock. So for example, let's say you wake up every night between 11 to 1 a.m. This means that you have to take extra care of your gallbladder. So for example, reducing fat intake and maybe consuming healthier fats. And on an emotional level, you might be carrying a lot of resentment and bitter feelings, and that's blocking your gallbladder energy system. If you often wake up between 1 to 3 a.m., and this is actually a very typical time, this is the liver. And so you're probably struggling with a lot of unfulfilled desires, frustration, tension, stress, anxiety. physically, your liver might be a bit overloaded. So you can just take a closer look at your diet and alcohol intake. And then waking up between 3 to 5 a.m. Is the lung time. So there might be something blocking your ability to breathe freely and deeply. And on an emotional level, you might be dealing with grief and loss. So I always tell people maybe to try doing more breath work, yoga, deep abdominal exercises are really helpful for the lung system. And stress, it's so important. It's one of the biggest factors that can suppress the immune system. And the thing with stress is that it activates our sympathetic fight or flight nervous system. And that's definitely needed and healthy in small amounts. But in larger amounts and over too long of a period of time, this releases too much cortisol, the stress hormone, and that lowers the number of white blood cells, and it prevents cellular healing and makes us just generally more vulnerable to illness. And if we have time later, I can show a couple of acupressure points that are really helpful for reducing stress.
Okay, so the whole idea is to bring us into parasympathetic state, right? That's what the goal is.
Exactly. In a parasympathetic state, we have better circulation, our other systems work better, for example, our digestion, our immune system works better, and there's more cellular healing involved in a parasympathetic state. And generally speaking, happy people do tend to have stronger Wei Qi, so a stronger immune system. Too much mental, emotional activity can consume the qi. And when our qi is consumed, we can actually age more quickly, we heal more slowly, we're more prone to disease and attack by these pathogens or viruses and bacteria. I tell people, try to do things that bring you joy. Get plenty of fresh air, get plenty of sunshine. Try to meditate or do some mindfulness. And this isn't easy for a lot of people, so it does take practice. I tell people, try to pay focused special attention to details of things. For example, when you're brushing your teeth, maybe brush for longer and really focus on the act of brushing your teeth. And it could be as easy as that to do, to be more mindful in your day. Avoid triggers that will cause, emotional stress or mental stress. Maybe watching the news is a trigger for you. And decluttering your living space is important. So, just anything that will help to sort of free your mind. And reading is great, practicing self-care, practicing the art of letting go. These will all help the emotions and stress, and that will help the immune system. And Chinese herbal medicine, I'll just really touch on this quickly. Of course, it's very helpful for the immune function, and Chinese herbal medicine can be given for so many different ailments. There is one particular Chinese herbal formula that is very gentle and very commonly used, and it's called Yuping Fang Sen, or translated to jade windscreen. And oftentimes in the cold and flu season, people will just take this daily as a preventative. And yeah, there's so many different herbal medicines, but I will say that the great thing about herbal medicine and what makes it most effective is to really tailor it to the individual. So Yuping Feng Sen is a bit of an exception. It can be taken by most people, but most other Chinese herbs should be taken under a qualified Chinese medicine physician.
So they are formulated according to a personal, personal conditions and that one person has, or there are already built up formulations that would be given to the person?
So they're both. So we have single herbs and then we have formulas. And these formulas can consist of anywhere between 10 to 20 different single herbs. And basically well, not to get into it too much, but the first visit with a Chinese medicine physician is very important because we'll ask a ton of questions about all systems of their body. We'll check their tongue, we take their pulse, and then we come to their Chinese medicine pattern diagnosis. And so the herbs will actually work to treat their pattern. So you may have two different people come in with a low functioning immune system, but they may have different patterns. So they will require different herbal medicines.
Thank you.
And so acupuncture is very, very effective for benefiting the immune system. It can stimulate blood and lymphatic circulation. It reduces inflammation. It boosts our qi, and it speeds healing. So if you can get acupuncture, I think that would be one of the best things to do right now for your immunity. And self-acupressure, well, first of all, what is self-acupressure? It's basically just acupuncture, but not using the needles. And it uses the same point locations, and the points actually have the same functions as regular acupuncture points. The great thing about it is that you don't need needles, so you can just use your hands, your fingers. You can use the end of a pencil or like the eraser part to stimulate the point. And so you can do it anywhere you are. It's very easy to learn, and it's easy to implement. And when you do self-acupressure consistently, it's very effective. So I've actually made 4 videos of me doing self-acupressure on myself. So Amita, are you able to play them?
Not right this minute because I'm sharing the screen. So
okay.
We could do the next session as the self-acupressure session, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I can do a whole webinar on self-acupressure, really.
We should do that. We should do that. This is a great overview, but the next session, I think we should do a self-learning acupressure session, would be
Absolutely.
my suggestion.
I can speak for days about acupuncture and acupressure. So another thing used commonly in Chinese medicine is called moxibustion, or we call it moxa for short. And this has also been used for centuries. And it uses a Chinese herb called mugwort. And basically it comes in different forms, but the form that I use in my clinic is in the form of a stick, or it looks like a little cigar. And you just light the end, and this herb basically has the function to stimulate circulation, it warms the channels, and it boosts our qi. And you simply will take that stick and warm a specific point on the leg. And I have a video for this too, but don't worry about showing it. This will actually, doing moxa on this specific point called stomach 36, increases the production of white blood cells, red blood cells, and hemoglobin. So it's so commonly used for boosting our immune system. And it also stimulates the circulation of blood and lymph and the capacity to produce antibodies. It increases energy, endurance, and stamina. It improves our digestion and increases our oxygen uptake. So this is something that I teach my patients to do at home, and you can simply buy these moxa sticks on Amazon. They're very cheap, very inexpensive, and just do that on yourself a few times a week, and it's actually quite relaxing. And just to sort of touch on a few supplements that I also recommend for the immune system are vitamin D, zinc lozenges. Kind of having those zinc lozenges a few a day and keeping your throat and mouth lubricated is very important. Probiotics are really great for the digestion and the immune system. And high potency vitamin C is also highly recommended. But I will say that from my research on vitamin C, I don't believe that it prevents colds and flus, but it does help with speeding healing when you actually are sick. Just to keep that in mind. And we're sort of approaching the end. I'll just mention that everybody is unique. And so your immune systems are also unique. I always advise to actually see a Chinese medicine practitioner and get customized instruction for your particular constitution. Everybody's constitution will be different.
So this is an excellent presentation, Dr. Maryam. We are open for questions. If someone has any questions who's attending, I see attendees in Zoom, so you're welcome to post your questions right now. So in the meantime, you said stomach 36, the moxa. So could you talk a little bit about how to do that?
I know it's a little unclear. So just like you have incense, you light the end. This is similar. So you take a moxa stick, you light the end until it becomes red and warm. And then you find the acupuncture point called stomach 36, which is about 3 inches below your knee. I had a video.
Okay, sorry, we don't have time for videos right now. That's
I know, exactly. So again, this can be in a separate webinar, but but you simply take a few minutes and you warm up that point by holding the moxa stick just about 1 inch or 2 away from your skin. And I mean, you can look it up on YouTube. There's a ton of videos, but just doing that, it can really make a difference for your immune system. It's really interesting. It's an interesting concept.
Yes, that's amazing.
I wish I could show you the point.
No, I know we can only see each other on our faces. But yeah, 3 inches below the knee, we hold the moxa about 1 inch away from the body. I mean, from our skin is what you're saying, right? I just want to clarify and make sure.
Exactly. Okay. I think most people that have been to acupuncturists might know what this is, but moxa does give off quite a bit of smoke. So some practitioners don't use it in their clinics. I actually like the smell, I don't mind it, but practitioners might use an infrared heat lamp instead of moxa. So yeah, it's just about applying that heat in order to free that flow of energy or qi and to warm up the qi of that particular point, because that point has been proven to increase white blood cells when you do acupuncture and moxa on it.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
that's very interesting concept. Any questions from the audience who are listening to this webinar online in Zoom and also on Facebook Live? Otherwise, I'll keep asking questions. So the other thing is, so maybe you can show us one. You said we have a few minutes. If you have time to show one acupressure point, just one acupressure point for people who are watching.
Yes, absolutely. So for anybody who is dealing with a little bit of anxiety, especially during this time, there's a great point. And the great point about this is that it also helps with expanding the lungs and relieving congestion in the lungs. It's actually on our chest. I'll just move back a bit. So if you find your chest bone, your sternum, and you just go down your midline, and between your breasts, you'll find a very sensitive spot. And you basically just take 2 or 3 fingers and you stimulate that spot for about a minute. And then you can release and then stimulate again. If you stimulate it enough, it should actually feel quite sore for a little bit of time afterwards. So this is great to to, again, relieve that congestion in the lungs. Oftentimes when people feel anxious, they might feel that tightness in their chest. They may feel some butterflies in their stomach. This is a great point to sort of just soothe that qi and calm the nervous system. And there's another point, great for sleep, for stress, for anxiety, and calming the sympathetic nervous system. And it's just between the eyebrows, right in between. So you just take any finger and you stimulate. I usually like to go in a circular motion. You do that for as long as you can. Another great thing about this is that it helps the frown lines because it's stimulating more blood. One thing I do in my clinic often is cosmetic acupuncture, stimulating blood in order to produce more collagen. So this is a great point. If you're ever lying down and you're having difficulty sleeping, very easy to do, easy to find.
This is very easy to do. So these are great tips. Hope our audience who's watching is I think these are great tips that all of us can do at home right now. Anything else that we should cover in this session? This is a pretty long session, but I think we should have different webinars for demonstrating acupressure. Maybe you could demonstrate different points of acupressure as well as moxa in our next sessions. I also want to say that Dr. Maryam offers group workshops, right? Dr. Maryam, if you want to talk about that a little bit about that.
So in addition to having my clinical practice and seeing patients in person for acupuncture and prescribing Chinese herbs to them, I've developed these self-treatment courses and programs. And basically you just, you can follow these videos or how-to tutorials. They include diet recommendations, fitting your customized pattern. It includes self-acupressure and different tools used in Chinese medicine just to do at home. I have 3 courses at the moment. One condition that I treat a lot in my clinic is fertility. So I have a male fertility program. I also have an IVF program, so supporting your IVF cycle self-treatment program. And then I also have an immune system program that I developed during the lockdown because my clinic was closed for 2 months and I had a bit of time. So I thought the immune system is such an important piece during the pandemic. So that course again is showing you how-to tutorials totally done at your own pace at home. So very convenient and just done out of the comfort of your home.
And then we'll be sharing the information to all the attendees, making those courses available. I just want to say that. So thank you so much. With that, I think I'd like to thank Dr. Maryam for coming here and sharing all the tips. These can be done easily at home. Any final thoughts before I wrap up? Any final comment? Any one-liner that you want to tell our viewers?
I hope that this presentation was helpful. I hope that it made sense. And I hope that everybody can stay as healthy as possible during this time.
Thank you. So please let us know your feedback. Let us know what are the topics you would like to see. We bring these educational sessions every week. So please check our calendar on Facebook. It's all current. With that, I want to thank all of you for joining, and please help us spread the word and share our sessions. Thank you so much. Have a great day.